Welcome home, brave heroes. I'm Ash, and lately I've been seeing a lot of discourse online about Elon Musk purchasing Hasbro. And let me tell you, I can't think of anything more ridiculous than this. God, who is calling me at this hour? Hello? Yeah, I'm filming the Musk video right now. Don't. Why? I'm literate. He could do what to my channel? He could do what to YouTube? I can fix this. Oh, hi. I didn't see you there. I'm Ash, and Elon Musk is the perfect person to purchase Hasbro and have complete and total creative and financial control over our favorite game, HeroQuest. And here's why. After the great layoffs of 2023, many of us HeroQuest fans were worried about matters beyond our meager understanding, business matters like profit, capital, revenue, and loss. With Elon's strict business mindset, laser-focused and tough-as-nails approach to all things finance, it's clear that he's the prime choice to completely restructure Hasbro from the ground up. Just take a look at any of the several tens of brands scrolling across your screen right now. Think of these as bronze ingots. Why, any single one of these could become platinum with the right touch, the Musk touch. While you can bet that Elon's first target, justifiably and understandably, would be Dungeons & Dragons and the horrible treatment that it's had to endure at the hands of Wizards of the Coast for decades. A pink beholder? Not on my watch. Woke! It's clear that the number 2s and possibly 3s thing that would be affected would be our beloved HeroQuest and or possibly Talisman. In the words of the immortal Alfred E. Newman, what, me worry? When Elon revitalizes Musk Quest and brings it back to its true former glory by possibly completely buying out Games Workshop in order to have all of the rights needed to produce the original 1989 models, why, Ye Old Inn will basically become Ye New Inn. And it's a good thing, too, because master of juxtaposition that he is, Elon will buy Ye Old Inn and ensure that it is operated the way that it should be, should always have been, with rampant microtransactions. PayPal donate? More like if you want to use the barbarian, wizard, elf, or dwarf emoji, or, better yet, any of the myriad of monsters available, you're going to have to pay $5.99 a month to get access to Ye Old Inn Plus. Isn't that right, beloved mascot, Nilbog? That's what I thought. Now, mind you, that's not the way things are today. This is just the beginning, a glimpse, a peek into the hopeful future, one wrought by force from our very own barbarian, dwarf, wizard and elf hybrid, Elon Musk. Think of the crossovers. Think, Mark, think. Once HeroQuest is in Elon's paws, hands, do monkeys have hands? Then just like this image, he will lift it to the sky to be enjoyed, not just by the meager masses, but by fellow billionaires. HeroQuest will become a game of prestige, engraved in the stone slabs of history forevermore, a testament to our planet's existence long after the suns have boiled away our oceans. And more so because HeroQuest will be the first game to be put on a Tesla rocket and launched into outer space. Are you still not sold on the excellence of this idea? Let's think about how Elon could affect some of the other properties of Hasbro. Magic the Gathering currently does not have a Web3 strategy. It would be so easy to put NFTs in with the cards. The possibilities are right there. Magic the Gathering, more like Magic the continued lost opportunities to make billions of dollars. Once Elon owns the rights to Transformers, he can build real Transformers. Come on, you can't pretend that the guy's been planning this his entire life. I'm no psychic, but if I were, I would be able to tell you with 100% accuracy and certainty that Elon would fund the Space Force X with actual Power Rangers. And because he is a man of class and tradition, they would be the OG Power Rangers, Gen 1. That's right, Jason, Kimberly, Billy, Zach, Trina, and Tommy. Because of course we gotta include the Green Ranger. Green is the color of money. Elon has many fans and would have the situation well under control. And yeah, it may be predictable, low-hanging fruit, but it would be remiss of me not to mention that the added benefit of Elon Musk owning Nerf is that all of the Nerf guns would have attached flamethrowers. I can't wait for Mr. Musk, our Lord and Savior, to elongate the longevity of HeroQuest for another 30 years to come. Did that do it? Am I safe? think that'll do it. We need a couple Tums after that one. So looking for information on this topic, it really all boils down to 4 simple words. And we'll get to that in just a minute. This is the meat of the topic. Welcome home, brave heroes. If I haven't already welcomed you appropriately to the real content, I'm Ash. This is HeroQuest. And this is a bit of a one-off from my regular content, but it did come across my desk, and not really so much as a surprise, but it does have people talking. So I wanted to talk about it as well. Now, in looking for info, you're going to find articles written about the articles, written about the tweets, written about the articles, written about the tweets, written about Elon's tweet. And it just kind of goes down this rabbit hole where it's tweets and articles all the way down until you get to the very bottom. And that's entertainment as the internet approaches complete unusability. So all credit due to all of the people that I'm featuring on the screen here. I don't follow any of these people. I don't necessarily support any of these people. I'm not in the know. I am just researching. And the opinions and the expressions of these opinions therein are not necessarily reflections of my own views on any of the subjects presented here. I'll give you those myself. Also, strong language ahead, so please be warned. We don't get a lot of strong language here on the channel. But let's dial it all the way back to the beginning. Grums tweeted on X, November 21st, 2024, D&D creators Gygax and others are erased and slandered at the same time. Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro just released the new Player's Handbook and Dungeon Master's Guide, as well as the 40th anniversary Making of D&D book, whose foreword slams the original creators and attempts to distance themselves. And we have some pages from the actual Making of book here, with the affected sections outlined. Of course, I love looking at stuff in the right kind of context, so it's a lot of fun to read outside of these lines as well. So it's kind of important, I think, to focus also on the rest of the text. And verbatim, this reads, "This book also includes something never before published, the original draft of Dungeons & Dragons that Gygax created on his home typewriter, with his and Arneson's annotations and corrections. This draft led to the 1974 publication of the first edition of Dungeons & Dragons, which is reprinted here in its entirety. That is pretty cool. Finally, the 3 most important supplements to the first edition of the game, Greyhawk, Blackmoor, and Eldritch Wizardry appear here, as do numerous articles and expansions written by fans, many of which were incorporated into Advanced D&D in the years after 1977. With a few noted exceptions, every page reproduced in this book is from a first printing with no attempt to correct the original pages. Street addresses and phone numbers have been redacted. The early rules for D&D are important and incredibly influential, but they're also confusing and even contradictory. That's how we've left them. We don't encourage you to try to play 1974 D&D from these pages. If you want to try, Wizards of the Coast has edited and republished the original Dungeons & Dragons white box in both physical and digital formats. These reprints incorporate errata from later printings of the game." I'm going to stop right here and kind of disclaimer, if any of this here is the cause of any sort of discourse about how this publication is somehow erasing legacy and distancing, and I know that the sections that I'm about to read are much more indicative of that and are much more the enraging parts, so to speak, with the literal outlines around them. But this here, this is fine. This shouldn't trigger anybody. They're literally saying, hey, these are the early editions, and I'm sure that corrections later on were approved by the man himself. So even these days, game designers don't really get it right the first try. They publish first editions. There will be little things here and there. There will be questions from the community that play test and then play the retail versions of the games and then reach out. And that's why we have things like errata and FAQs. And it's not cool that that's kind of more the norm than it is the exception, but it happens. And when it does happen, the developers of the game are then what? They are educated. They are able to make something better the next time they make it. And they may make future editions that have these minor changes incorporated so that it's more accessible. And accessibility is going to be a big word in today's video. Let's continue reading this page. This book presents D&D as it was first imagined, warts and all. What sort of warts are we talking about? One example is including creatures from other intellectual properties, such as J.R.R. Tolkien's Middle-earth. Without permission, in later printings of D&D, Balrogs, Hobbits, and Ents were renamed Balors, Halflings, and Treants to avoid these copyright issues. A very smart move. It just goes to show that even the best, even the kings in this game, not the game of Dungeons and Dragons, but the game of game development, all kind of falter here and there a bit, and sometimes they fly a little too close to the sun. Some language in the first iteration of D&D presents a moral quandary, and this is the section of the book that is outlined here, obviously. The documents reproduced in this book include many pages of charts and tables alongside lists of monsters, spells, and magic items. But that game content also includes a virtual catalog of insensitive and derogatory language, words that are casually hurtful to anyone with a physical or mental disability, or who happens to be old, fat, not conventionally attractive, indigenous, black, or a woman. I don't know that this section itself was written in the best way, but it is what it is. Let's move on. Some people have charitably ascribed this language to authors working from bad assumptions. In the 1970s, historical war gamers in America were predominantly white, middle-class men. It isn't surprising that they would dub a class of soldiers the fighting man. But when, in the pages of Greyhawk, the description of the Queen of Chaotic Dragons includes a dig at women's lib, the misogyny is revealed as a conscious choice. It's an unfortunate fact that women seldom appear in original D&D, and when they do, they're usually portrayed disrespectfully. Slavery appears in original D&D not as a human tragedy that devastated generations over centuries, but as a simple commercial transaction. The cultural appropriation of original D&D ranges from the bewildering, like naming every 6th level cleric a llama, to the staggering, gods, demigods, and heroes, not reprinted in this book, includes game statistics for sacred figures revered by more than 1 billion people around the world. Were players expected to fight Vishnu, one of the principal deities of Hinduism, kill him and loot his +3 sword of demon slaying? And we'll read just a bit after the highlight here. Despite these shortcomings, D&D has always been a game about people choosing to be someone unlike themselves and collaborating with strangers who become friends. It has slowly become more inclusive, and as the player base has become more diverse, the pool of creators who make the game has expanded to include people with a broader range of identities and backgrounds. As these new creators make the game more welcoming, the game has attracted new fans who in turn continue to make the game more inclusive. The future of Dungeons & Dragons, here at its 50th anniversary, is bright, and it all started with the pages that follow. Now, my own perspective is that this could definitely have been written a little bit better. It does raise very valid points, and in some cases warranted points, and it does obviously pose an attack to the source material. I don't know that an attack is necessary to the source material. It should speak for itself. The disclaimers could be much, much shorter. I have read disclaimers about the source material. Hey, it's old. It has stuff in it that has not aged very well because society has gotten better. People have gotten more inclusive. Games are now targeted towards more people. And that's just how it is now versus back then. So I can definitely see the criticism that this is a distancing, and in many cases that would be a good thing. I will say that Dungeons & Dragons is not the end-all be-all of fantasy. There are a lot of fantasy works where there are characters, creatures, gods, mythical beings that were revered and respected, or still are in many different cultures, but they are reduced to the role of a monster. It's not a representation of that original thing. It's an interpretation of it. Every single Final Fantasy game you ever play is going to have a literal interpretation of a god that is actively respected or revered somewhere in the world. And when you defeat them, you're probably going to loot their +3 sword of demon slaying and get a little bit of gold, plenty of experience on the side, hopefully enough to level up. So this might be going just a little bit farther than it needs to, but we can move on to the second page that is uploaded here by Grums on X. Note that the rules for fantastic medieval wargames campaigns that make up original D&D were created by and sold to a wargaming community that was almost exclusively white middle-class men. The rules compiled here offer little by way of roles for other players, nor indeed for anyone who wouldn't easily identify with a pulp, sword, and sorcery hero. To reiterate the disclaimer Wizards of the Coast includes on legacy D&D content, these depictions were wrong then and are wrong today. The content is presented as it was originally created because to do otherwise would be the same as claiming these prejudices never existed. So I am willing to bet that you'd be hard-pressed to actually find someone who believes that slavery, for example, should just be a simple commercial transaction and wasn't a real tragedy that occurred, at least domestically here. But at the same time, In our fantasy lands, the concept of slavery can lead to some really great storytelling. It can also give your players a motive, something that they can, at some point in their journey, aim to stop, at least whatever is within their power to do at their level or wherever they are in the story, or what have you. I don't know what references they're talking about here, so I'm not going to white knight for something that I'm not familiar with. I'm just going to say that, again, I don't know that all of the disclaimer is necessary, so I can see that it's kind of easy to stab at by people who don't like this sort of thing. However, and before I continue my however, I just want to say this channel is not one to get into politics. I don't even like to be politically adjacent on the platform. When we talk about the misadventures of American billionaires, we do kind of toe that line just a little bit, but we won't go over that line. However, the amount of hate and vitriol aimed at these sentences doesn't really offer solutions. And I'm not necessarily talking about the post here by Grums. I don't know this creator. I don't care. I'm not looking at the comments or the shares or the retweets or the reposts, but I am looking at some of the examples of that hate and vitriol here on X, of which it is plentiful. And by the way, I'm not on X anymore. I got rid of my account about a month ago and traded in for a Blue Sky. So if you're on Blue Sky, follow me there. It's a great, much more friendly place, much more productive. But right here, RIP. Dungeons & Dragons, R.I.P. Jason Tondro, the project lead of D&D and senior designer at Hasbro's Wizards of the Coast, explains that the intended audience is woke, and that Wizards of the Coast doesn't give a damn about what Elon Musk or any other grognard, a slur for old school players, thinks. Oh yeah, I guess I kind of forgot about Elon Musk's response to all this, which was directly to Crumbs' initial tweet with the pages that had the highlights that we just went over. And Elon Musk said, nobody, and I mean nobody, gets to trash Gary Gygax and the geniuses who created Dungeons & Dragons. What the beep is wrong with Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast? May they burn in hell. This might be the kind of response that you would expect from somebody who is over the top out of touch, but this is kind of also a sentiment that is echo-chambered across all of nerd fandom about the new editions for whatever reason. I think it's a much more valid and warranted take to just trash the new editions because of the substandard rule sets in favor of playing an older edition, which you can definitely just do. And most of the, I'll call them superior Dungeons & Dragons enjoyers, just do that without all the whinging and whining. Just play 3.5, don't support the new, and let the business live and die by its decisions. But as I am proving right here today, everybody's got to have a voice on social media. I'm taking a stab at myself because I'm using social media. Now, outlined by this article on Forbes by Rob Wieland, who is a game designer who covers tabletop games for Forbes. The most recent edition has taken steps to move away from some of the opinions and design choices made by Gygax in his version of the game. The 2024 Player's Handbook moved away from races into species and detached character statistics from that aspect of characters and moved it to their backgrounds. Wizards claim the new version of the core book is the fastest selling D&D book in the history of the game. So there could be a lot of stuff behind this. The reasons as to why it's the fastest selling book, for example. I'm not sure that it's the fastest selling book specifically because of these changes, and I don't necessarily think that that's what this author is implying. This last statement here seems to read, in spite of this, that the core book is the fastest selling D&D book. That may be because it's available digitally, unless I'm wrong about that. If it is available digitally, I can see it being offered at a drastically reduced price from your traditional Dungeons & Dragons book of any kind, because it's very easy to sell a $3.99 ebook version of what would be a $16.99 paperback or $25 to $30 hardcover book. Not that those are the prices of the D&D modules or rulebooks or anything like that here. I don't know what those prices are. Just saying that that's one of the many different variables that could go into why it would be the fastest selling D&D book in the history of the game. It could also have a lot to do with the influence of contemporary D&D media such as Vox Machina or Baldur's Gate 3 or the Dungeons & Dragons movie or the cheapening of the media overall as it transitions into brand deals with Funko Pops and the like. But back to this relevant tweet. I just don't take those critiques seriously even now. says Jason Tondro. I consider those people not worth listening to, so I didn't anticipate their outrage. He's referring, of course, to Elon Musk's negative reaction to Wizards of the Coast's dismissal of D&D creator Gary Gygax, whose creations, according to Tondro, would never pass DEI inclusivity review today because it was made by old white dudes and that's totally problematic. That specific quote was in response to what looks like a Facebook question, whose author has been removed from the screenshot that I'm looking at. Out of curiosity, did you or your team foresee any blowback to your comments potentially? And this is referring to the comments in the 50th anniversary book, the ones that were outlined that we read. That is, attention from Musk was as unpredictable as it is ludicrous, but was there any sense in advance that this could rub some portion of the fandom the wrong way, though still be worth doing? That's a well-worded question, and that's an important question. Sometimes you got to stick to your guns and just do a thing. How you do a thing might affect how people think about why you're doing the thing that you're doing. So the expression of why you're doing a thing can be important, so people don't get the wrong idea. Being more inclusive and diverse where there was very little inclusivity and diversity is always a good thing if it's done in earnest. However, if you do cross the line over into pandering, that's usually going to be called out both by people who don't like change and by the people that you are trying to attract to your product. I'm not bootlicking either side here. I'm just saying we are constantly trying to be sold stuff from everybody, all angles, all the time. And salesmen don't successfully sell stuff without knowing how to get into your head. That might be wording it a little bit with some undue paranoia. Salespeople, though, are generally wizened in the way of how to present something, which leads me to today's sponsor. You're my sponsor. If you'd like to become a member of the channel, there's no better time to do it because memberships are turned on now, whereas they weren't before, and you can have access to dozens of legacy videos from the Amalgamash channel concerning all of the dated HeroQuest news and speculative content that I couldn't bring myself to republish because it just wasn't right to republish old stuff. It's off of that channel because that channel's about video games and I want the algorithm for both channels to be healthy and thrive. There will also be bonus content for anybody who decides to be a member. I've got a few videos planning and in the works that I would like to upload to be members only, not to make anybody miss out, but just to give those members a little bit of something extra. And if you join the Patreon instead, you'll still have access to those self-same videos, bonus content and all, and you'll have access to a monthly quest that I put out that I'm having a really hard time putting out at the same time every single month for a campaign that I'm writing for use with HeroQuest. Did I successfully sell that to you? It's cheap, I promise. It's like $2. $2 to be a member, 3, 4? I don't remember. It's like $3 to be a member, $5 to be a patron. Back to the video, Elon Musk tweeted those 4 words that have got everyone buzzed, everybody fuming, everybody terrified, quaking in their boots. How much is Hasbro? In response to the tweet from Ian here. We've read pretty much everything relevant at this point, so all that's left to do is kind of speculate. And I don't know what really there is to speculate. As HeroQuest fans, we tend to think about past dealings with Hasbro, with Milton Bradley, with Avalon Hill. We tend to look at trends. We tend to think that we know a little bit about business here and there, or how the market might work, or how the business behavior or business decisions might go, because we want to feel included, and we want to feel like we're relevant somehow in this big picture with our favorite game. And I feel that. I really, really do. But it's kind of impossible to tell how any of that would go, really. We do tend to look at the past, I feel. We say, all right, 1989, HeroQuest rolls around. In the grand scheme of things, it brought a lot of people together. It made us very creative. It made a lot of memories for us. We're very nostalgic for it. And in 2021, when the reboot hit, we suddenly found ourselves adults, hit with a wave of nostalgia and in control of the fate of this game. We get to say arbitrarily, we could be the reason that kids our age, just like us, experience the same memories, have the same nostalgia 30 years from now, shut up, and also become super creative, while at the same time trying to profit off of people's FOMO by taking Avalon Hill's IP and marketing our physical products with their IP on our stuff in an effort to gain money. And anyway, the campaign is successful. Then Joe Manganiello's quest doesn't come to retail, and people get upset. The Commander of the Guardian Knights is on sale for all of 15 seconds, and then it's gone forever, and people are upset. The Hasbro layoffs of 2023 during winter of all times happen, and people, understandably, get upset. First Light is shown, and it has terrible, just atrocious AI art that paints not only a picture of cobbled together piracy, but disrespect to the fans, to artists, to the players, and people understandably get upset. Do we as fans know where the line is drawn between Hasbro and Avalon Hill? No. We like to think that we do, and we have speculation on that. But at the end of the day, we have no way of knowing how much is done by one versus the other, or how much collaboration there truly is. In my mind, to work at Avalon Hill and come up with the good ideas would be a dream. But you'd have to have the skill set of selling those ideas and making them seem as profitable as possible to other people before they could become reality. The very act of coming up with stuff is a cost. It's a liability. It's something for which you would be paid, and you'd better do a good job at making things that are marketable. Elon Musk is a billionaire, and I personally don't think too much of the guy now. There was a time when I thought, man, if there was one person in the world that I'd love to work for, it would be Elon Musk, because hey, this billionaire is writing a stoner reggae ballad about Harambe. That's hilarious. I love it. Hey, this guy is on an episode of PewDiePie's Lawai or meme review or something. You remember that? It's fuzzy. It's fuzzy. I'm getting older. There. He's shutting down his stuff in California so he can move to Texas. There's better taxes there. That's why he's doing it. It's a brilliant business move. Crap. He just laid off an entire factory of Tesla workers in seemingly 5 minutes. They had no idea they were getting let go. It's been too long for me to really talk about that intelligently, and I can't be bothered to look it up right now, but you kind of remember that happening? I kind of remember it. Wow, he's buying Twitter for some reason. I really don't care. Wow, he's making a complete fool of himself on Twitter. Okay. This is great. He's not like other billionaires. He's in touch. He's funny. He just likes to pal around. Look at all this money he's spending to better humanity. All of these Tesla cars. Okay, maybe that's a bad example. No, they're electric. They're going to be good for the environment. Never mind the fact they recharge at petrol stations that essentially pull off the grid, which is nuclear powered. Damn it, I'm having trouble coming up with good things to say. Starlink. Starlink is a great idea. Impoverished nations will be able to access the internet free of charge. Oh, it's like, I don't know, $500 for a permanent receiver, and then the cost is actually like $100 a month or something. It's not a good deal. It's not a good deal. It's worth it if you are on the road constantly, and if you mark it up as a business expense, or you have that kind of money to pay for internet to begin with. But my goodness, it is not what I thought initially it was supposed to be. So at the end of the day, how much good does the guy do? I have no idea. I only see stuff on screens about the guy. I don't pretend to think that that's knowledge in some way, shape, or form. It's just perspective. And it could be written to sell things to me, so I don't really give it a whole lot of thought. I take it with a grain of salt. But it does kind of seem, consistently with the way that things are presented, that it may end up being a bad thing if he has control of Hasbro. I don't know, because Hasbro's latest financial report that's honestly not something I can read with very much comprehension. Hasbro's a big company. They have their hands in a lot of stuff. Close to 24 subsidiaries and a number of recognizable household name brands across those. So the profit and or loss from one sector could very much offset profit and loss in another sector. This to me is something akin to saying, wow, if Florida fails, then all of the United States fail, and so on. But I'll admit, it's something that I'm not really equipped to talk about intelligently at length or in depth, because I'm not in the business. I don't see what they see. Cursory Google search reveals that Hasbro's net worth as of 2024 is $9.2 billion. With total cash of 1.19 and total debt of 3.99, if you can believe the AI overview. Elon Musk is reported to have $354.9 billion USD. So, if Elon had $355 cash and Hasbro cost $10, would he buy it? And if so, what would he do with it? Well, we already know that he would buy it with the sole purpose of targeting Wizards of the Coast and affecting, in some way, shape, or form, Dungeons and Dragons. And I'm not necessarily going to claim that that would be a terrible thing, and that's only because Dungeons and Dragons seems to have hit a specific string of failures these past few years, with new additions and different choices being made by the CEO who has stepped down sometime this year, early in the year, I believe. And I would actually talk a little bit more about the AI art debacle that Wizards of the Coast had with their Magic the Gathering art on the newer cards, but I have a feeling that Elon Musk would lean more into that rather than away from it. Essentially, they did something that broke the trust of their consumers when they reneged on the very clear, legal, sound, solid licensure they had for their OSR by effectively saying, yeah, never mind, you can't make money off our stuff anymore, and furthermore, you're going to pay us. We, the fans, voiced our dissent, and they retracted that, and then some, because they shouldn't have had the power to do that to begin with, and should not have had the cojones to pretend like they did. People's chief complaint about Dungeons & Dragons right now, besides whatever terrible rule changes they might have, seem to be kind of aimed at the diversity and inclusion aspects of it. And I will say, while I don't like things to be changed solely to market it, because I just don't like being marketed to in general, that's an entirely broad pet peeve of mine that has nothing to do with diversity, inclusion of any kind. I do understand organically wanting something to grow into something that's more accessible for more people. And there are steps that they could take to make Dungeons & Dragons as accessible as possible, in line with what they would like to do now, without doing exactly what they're doing now. But still, we who love HeroQuest, we who love that Avalon Hill exists and are doing all kinds of cool things with the property and giving us ideas to do cool things with our homebrew, we worry about the future of stuff like this. What if Elon comes in and says, Avalon Hill, HeroQuest? Nah, don't need it. We're not even considering the possibility that he might completely rebrand the Jungles of Delthrak and replace the ape character with one named Harambe, for the sole purpose of just doing that, because I could see that being actually pretty realistic. I'm going to spin you a hypothetical yarn. What if he does a better job than we might think? Again, not a huge fan of the guy, but I don't like fearing stuff just for the sake of fearing it. Inside me are two wolves about this. One wolf says he could throw money at the brand to make it even better. He could make sure that the app works in all kinds of countries and has the appropriate manpower on it. Then the other wolf says, think about the ethics and morals that are consistent in his business practices. What if he ensures that every single HeroQuest character is now a white dude? Quick observation, why does nobody ever call that pandering? Is that not the original pandering? Wolf A, would you like to comment? All right, what if he has so much money to throw at Avalon Hill to redo HeroQuest that they re-release First Light, and instead of standees at all, it's all miniatures. It's an entirely complete core game system. Wolf B, a rebuttal? Wolf B thinks that while that's technically a possibility, it's also quite possible that we go right back to the AI-generated stuff, because Elon Musk is very much a fan of artificially intelligence-generated stuff. AI art runs rampant on Twitter. And there's no way that Elon Musk, the guy who wants to create a gaming platform wherein games are created by AI for the gamer instead of by humans or by gaming companies, would not lean fully into the AI aspect and possibilities therein for the properties under Hasbro. AI art for Magic the Gathering cards? Yeah, that would probably be a thing. AI CGI scenes like that abysmal Coke ad in Star Wars movies and series? Yeah, that would probably be something I could see. AI generated everything for Dungeons & Dragons, from campaigns written by AI to interactive AI platforms that play the role of the Dungeon Master. That already exists, but this time it would be official and sanctioned. And just in case, I should probably clarify that the Dungeon Masters that I'm talking about are the tabletop gaming variety, you sickos. For those of you unaware, yeah, there's a couple of different platforms now, a couple of different websites where you can go and get an AI Dungeon Master, and you can kind of control the personality and the pacing of the quest and everything with that dungeon master in your prompts, and you can set different various parameters and the like. And there are a lot of people who actually really like this because they get to sit back and be dungeon mastered. That's a bit of a weird way to phrase it. And there are others that really don't like it because the way that AI generation goes, it's definitely pulling from somebody who didn't give their consent to have their stuff pulled from in order to source how it behaves. But having actually tried one of these AI dungeon masters, I don't like it because they're constantly just coming up with responses. There's usually going to be a goal of some kind in Dungeons & Dragons that drives the progression and drives the narrative. But for the AI, it doesn't care what you did 5 minutes ago. You're in a brand new adventure. You are sliding down to a new level of not immersion, but some kind of muck where your choices matter, but whatever you did 5 minutes ago does not matter anymore. This can only be improved, I guess, to the point where it's just permanently uncanny valley. That's not really what I would like to experience in a game of Dungeons & Dragons. What I would like to experience is hanging out with my friends. And the AI is not my friend. It's just a predictive model that tries to do and say what it believes my friends would do and say. And that's just creepy. But the point is, I could definitely see a HeroQuest app that allows you to play an infinite game of HeroQuest because Zargon is AI. And that's kind of the contribution that I think Elon would make to all of this if he were serious about buying Hasbro, if Hasbro were for sale. Some folks have commented on some kind of shareholder stuff that I don't want to get into because I have no idea how all of it works, but I guess the possibility exists that if the price is right, Hasbro wouldn't be able to say no, they would have to sell. And that's kind of weird and a little bit scary, but probably that way by design. I think it has something to do with debt. Anyway, for this channel, this is probably a much deeper dive than anyone is used to, including myself. It's 7:19 a.m. I am sleep deprived, having adjusted to my new real-life work schedule. If you'd like to buy me a coffee, consider joining the channel as a member, and you will directly contribute to my consumption of caffeine to get me through this difficult time. I'm going to end this video with some thoughts by our resident dragon, Cornelius, who understands the hoarding of billions of gold better than anybody else I know. Brave heroes, thank you so much for watching and for your kind attention. This presentation was made with the best of intents, a little bit of snarkiness here, a little bit of irreverence there, might have slipped out because this recording at the end of the day, and yes, this is the end of the day. I have stayed up to this point. I didn't get up early. Energy is way different than the waking up and making content energy. Oh, it's different. It comes from a different place. But I'm realizing that my message is pretty much the same. Don't panic. We'll cross this bridge together, one way or another. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, have a fantastic rest of your day. Take it away, dragon.
I spit on your technology and your billions of dollars. I'm not a shell, I'm a dragon, and I don't care about your Teslas, or your SpaceX, or your flamethrowers. I've got a built-in flamethrower.